I learned a long time ago that it doesn't do any good to physically discipline a dog, and Great Danes are even worse. Like, it'll mess them up. Mm-hmm. They're very sensitive dogs. Okay, are we ready?
Very sensitive bitch.
They're very sensitive bitches. All right, happy day. We are here on the Pet Waste Millionaire Find Your Gold podcast. I have with me as my guests today some of my good friends, business partners, colleagues, Ben Gonzalez and Jeremy Langlitz with White Picket team. These are the kind of the guys behind the curtain most of the time. Many of you might know Ben if you follow this channel much, but most of you probably do not know Jeremy. He's usually behind the cameras, and he's really, truly the guy behind the curtains at just about everything I do. All of the details, the business administration, anytime anybody ever asks how do I do it all, really the way I do it all is this guy right here. Whether it's insurance, compliance, legal, IRS. We have a meeting with the IRS in a few weeks, Jeremy. That one's going to be fun. That's a first. That'll be a first for me. I've never actually had a sit-down meeting with the IRS, but we've got to work a few things out. Everybody, if you have not ever met, this is Astra, one of my two Great Danes. She's about 2 years, a little over 2 years old, and her sister's around here somewhere, but we're a very dog-friendly studio here at the Find Your Gold studio. I keep wanting to say live because for the longest time I called this podcast live, but we kind of did away with that, didn't we, Ben?
The live was a good experiment.
It was. I learned something.
What do you feel like was the positive upsides to doing it live?
Well, I only did a few. Well, there was one positive. No, I only did a few, but one of them was you kind of have to. It forces you to get a little bit more prepared. One of the other reasons I liked it and still like it is because there's not a downtime. As soon as you do it, I mean, it's live. It's then. It's happening right then. Mm-hmm. Whereas this, for instance, has to be edited, and it has to be released. The live, it's just done, and I like that. I like the quickness to that. Mm-hmm. What do you think, Jeremy? Do you like the idea of live, or do you like the idea of spending hours thinking about it and editing it?
Hours editing it?
Yeah, because it can be, I mean, at the end of the day, the quality of a podcast episode, whatever, it's the content. The quality in like it being 4K or it being dynamically cut is helpful, but the quality of the conversation, like what emotion it evoked out of you is, in my opinion, the most important thing. And if you're lacking in that, sometimes the post-editing is kind of helpful in making it more engaging.
Here's what I'll say to that. I don't have a darn clue. When we start getting hundreds and tens of thousands of viewers, then I'll be able to speak on having a clue whether or not what works and what doesn't. But for now, I'm still in experimentation mode. And so, that's a lot of why we're here. We're here in my garage office. This is going to be our home base for this podcast. But we're also going to take it on the road, and Kendra's going to be a part of this. Jeremy, you're going to help produce it. Ben, you're always going to be a part of it, and just your feedback I very much so value, and helping and planning and basically doing things that I don't want to do.
That I don't want to do either.
Yeah, but
I'm just kidding. That's not true.
Well, sometimes it is. But no, I like where we're going with this Find Your Gold podcast, and I really do believe you can find your gold in anything, and that's the concept. Is obviously I started out mowing lawns, expanded that into dog poop scooping. That's how we found our gold, and then we've created this whole tour that you guys have been a big part of, the Turning Poop into Gold, the T-Pig Takeover Tour. But there's a lot more of other stuff you guys are working on during the day-to-day, and I want to talk about that, and I want to be very casual, talk about some things like the fact that you guys want to change the darn name, which, by the way, this will be very entertaining, should be very fun. Lighten up, loosen up, this should be fun. Because this is hilarious, actually. Like, I feel like this is like the natural progression of every entrepreneur in some ways. I, at one point, when I started doing door hangers, I had changed the name of my mowing business so many times over the course of a couple of years that I just stopped printing the name on the door hangers. It was just called Lawn Service. And then it had the services and the phone number. This is before I even dealt with email and websites.
Started off with Eagle, right?
That was one of the many. No. It started off No, Eagle was back there. You're right. But even before that, it was McCoy Lawn and Garden, and after Eagle, it was actually McCoy Lawn and Garden. That's all like high school.
Yeah.
So, but no. So I understand this. But hold on, guys. Listen, I don't remember where we were. Where were we when we decided in 2024 that we were going to maintain our name for bookkeeping, accounting, coaching, and consulting services? We were going to keep the name White Picket because we already had the website, we already had the email domains. We didn't have, like, we agree that a name and a company, while it matters, yes, you want something that speaks to what you want, which White Picket did. It doesn't matter as much as I think a lot of entrepreneurs think it does, especially new entrepreneurs. It really doesn't matter. So I'm laughing at this a little bit, but tell me, you just told me this a few hours ago, Jeremy, right before leading up to this podcast, and I thought, you know what, wait, let's save this because this is going to be fun. So, by the way, I should have set this up, everybody. So we are business partners. These are Josh Cahill, who is not here today, as well as the three of us are business partners in a company that today is called White Picket Team, that does bookkeeping and accounting is its core. And I want to get back to that in a little bit, the importance of that and the fact that it is so overlooked everywhere I look, which is kind of why we settled on the idea that we believe bookkeeping is an area that we can provide a valuable service, primarily to home service businesses, to franchise organizations. That's our focus. But bookkeeping is needed everywhere, inside and outside of franchising, all over home services. Most businesses don't have adequate, by my standard, books. And then I believe we have a unique selling proposition in our bookkeeping, in that we can do bookkeeping and keep the books up to date weekly. I don't think that's very common, at least I haven't come across it. But I want to get back to that in a second. Let's talk about this name. Why are we looking to change the name? Partners?
There's two different factors, right? Yeah. For me, it's different than probably Ben. Mine is very simple, right? You have White Picket Team Management, which is what we started off as, and when it comes down to insurance and some of the other companies that I deal with, there's just confusion between White Picket. Am I talking about White Picket Team or am I talking about White Picket Team Management? And so for me, having a little bit of a breakaway from there would, I know White Picket Team Management is supposed to go away, but at the same time, it's still just causing confusion in everyday life for me.
My experience with all of these insurance matters that you deal with is that it all confuses them, and I wonder why they get so confused so easy.
Because they don't use the EIN number.
Exactly. So the point is, that's my point. Even if we change the name just because of that reason, they're still going to be confused about something else.
They would be, but they wouldn't be concerned about, they would see there's a clear distinction between what we're doing and what White Picket Team Management was doing, right?
These are short term. White Picket Team Management is winding down.
But then this goes back to the second factor, which Ben can probably expound on a little better.
Well, there's two things I'm thinking about.
So
Firstly, fair enough. Stick with me on this one. I was watching an Elon Musk video on Instagram, and he was talking about entrepreneurship and business ownership. And he said it's like staring into the abyss and eating glass.
I've seen that.
And I thought that was so related. I'm not there yet, personally. I don't think I'm at that point yet. It's not like White Picket Team, as it stands today, is not only on me. It's not just me. But I relate to every decision kind of matters. Like everything is super important. I just feel the importance that everything is really important that we do, and everything that we do ideally is a next step up. And I don't want to like take a step and then have to take 3 steps back. So there's that. It's what we do and being focused on the future is important to me. And so on one hand, probably getting ahead of myself a little bit. On the other hand, I'm thinking about the stupid competition between Executive Lawn Care and Mowing R Us, and Mowing R Us outside of an extremely dedicated individual focused on growing his business. He has mowing in his name, and I think he's crushing in Google rankings because he has exactly what he does in his name.
That's an idea.
And so I want to be thinking about that for SEO. Like, we're going to have competition. I did a little bit of research. What we've talked about in this past week on what I envision us doing and starting to really focus in and dial in on the services and the packages and how we're marketing and who we're marketing to, we're going to have competition, obviously. Even the weekly bookkeeping, I think we're going to have some competition with that. And so I would just want to.
Oh, I definitely think you have competition. There's a lot of bookkeepers.
So I'm trying to leverage any sort of strategic advantage that we can outside of our relationships with the people that will hopefully be our clients.
So you want to name it ABC Bookkeeping? Is that what you're saying?
No, not quite that. But I want to try to come up with a name that fits both of those things, because I can't tell you how many times people have gotten it right, that it's White Picket Team and not White Picket Fence. Like
that is somewhat that's where it ties in.
But I don't know that I want to limit us to just home services, because I think there's so much opportunity in what we do
by
and
naming
going way outside.
By naming it and tying it into just bookkeeping, you're limiting it to just bookkeeping or bookkeeping and coaching.
I don't want it to be.
That's a challenge in itself.
Yeah.
That's why we have Chorby, so that we don't limit ourselves.
Why don't you describe why you named it White Picket Team to begin with?
Well, because home services, it's kind of a play on, the foundation 5 years ago, and for the team, for anybody watching, going back to where we were talking about, we had this entity that Josh Cahill and I started years ago, White Picket Team Management, LLC. This was our HR entity that helped us with Scoop Soldiers and Chorby, and at one point or another, our other brand, Executive Lawn Care. And for 5 years that worked. It was a kind of an internal company that we used to help us with HR, that's it. But we realized, and these guys helped us realize, that the absolute need for accounting in the marketplace. And as an entrepreneur, I saw a need, and I saw these guys and believe in these guys, and hey puppies, and I believed that I wanted to partner with them, and I believed that we could offer this service, and I do believe we can do that. And so you guys became business partners. We decided 2024, we're just going to keep it simple. We got to start a new entity. That's the cleanest way to become partners. Mm-hmm. So we established White Picket Team LLC. And then we established and kind of decided upon that name. Now we're discussing possibly changing that name. Ben, you put out a good argument. I actually don't disagree with a lot of what you're saying. I also think that, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't in some ways. In some ways, you're correct. Mm-hmm. I'll also say, though, both can be right. We can stick with White Picket Team, and we can go the Gary Vee route, and we can make it all about build our brand. Go out there. It's about selling your brand. You could be called dog shit bean counters, and you could sell accounting to banks if you're good enough at selling it and getting your brand out there. Mm-hmm. The point is these things, in my opinion, don't matter all that much, and I think we're dancing around the fact that we got to figure out how to get clients. At the end of the day, we got to figure out how to get clients. I don't care what our name is. Y'all can easily convince me to change our name, but I'm going to constantly question, are we focused on changing our name because this business owners do this constantly too, because we don't want to focus on the obvious thing we need to do, which is to get customers. Those are my thoughts.
Yeah,
hope I'm not coming across as though I'm talking down to the two of you. I got in trouble this weekend and got reminded that I can be very condescending at times.
At times? No, I think you're the most experienced person in the room when it comes to entrepreneurship and business ownership.
Well, and I know something about changing names of businesses too.
Yeah. So, yell all you want. I know your truth.
Wait, why did you change some of your other names then, if names didn't really matter?
Yeah, my lessons, that's where my lessons come from.
But do you regret changing from weed extinguisher to Chorby?
That's a deep question, actually, sir, because in some ways, maybe, a little bit.
Maybe.
And I'll tell you this, sitting here in the season of my life in Q1 2025, yeah, kinda. Let's think back to the success of Chorby since we changed our name. Frankly speaking, there isn't any. We offer almost the same services.
Right.
With the exception of pools. I hope Cynthia doesn't listen to this. She's going to get mad at me. No, with the exception of pools, we've added pools, okay? Mm-hmm. We didn't have pools when we were weed extinguishers.
Sprinklers.
And we kind of did sprinklers. And technically as weed extinguishers, you could all day long do sprinklers.
Okay, yeah.
You had Robo.
And so all the other services we do, outside of pools at this point, kind of we did when we were weed extinguishers and kind of fit. And so I'll tell you this. When I went from Emerald Lawn Care
Right.
to weed extinguishers, probably should not have done that. The reasons for it were stupid. The reasons were because I wanted to focus on lawn care. I could have focused on lawn care when I was Emerald Lawn Care.
Right.
And I say lawn care to distinguish from mowing. I wanted to focus on fertilization and weed control and less mowing, and that's why we changed our name. But really, what was it? It was that I was a 30-year-old entrepreneur that wasn't terribly mature in my entrepreneurship, and I just wanted something bright and shiny and fun to do. Was it worth the cost? No.
For Emerald, I think
For
so.
Emerald to weed extinguishers, it was not worth the cost. And then I'll say this, I hated the name weed extinguishers within a year. I didn't even like the name. I don't like the name. So that's where I am glad we changed it. I love the name Chorby. I think there's a lot to it. I love the grand vision that we still have with Chorby. And so for those reasons, I think it's just the season we're in right now where it's like, gosh, we had to shut down landscapes. We attempted plumbing. We had to shut that down. I think I'm in this season right now where it's kind of like, woe is me, failure. We failed here. We got to get better. And we got to come back with a different approach, and that's going to take, in a lot of ways, it's going to take years. And so in years, you could ask me that question again, and I'll be like, oh yeah, glad we did it. It just took twice as long to do anything.
Right. But also Emerald, though, I will say, Emerald, though, also got rid of some trademark issues that you could have had down the road.
Absolutely. Good point.
Because there was like, another one in Texas?
Well, there's literally Emerald Lawn Care, I think is what they're called, in Austin.
Yeah. That's right.
And so we would have never been able to franchise it as Emerald.
So there was a need there to change it at that point. Not in that time, but...
But like I said, here's the point, is changing names. I've done this.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying here is, at this current moment, I've never actually been happy with it. I like the consistency. Think of this. Think of the consistency of Executive Lawn Care and that brand that we have. It's been Executive Lawn Care since 2004. There's been kind of some back-end things that we've done with HR and such. But by and large, it's been Executive Lawn Care since 2004, and definitely to the clients. It's been Executive Lawn Care since 2004.
Do you think there's been any confusion with the clients? Because it's lawn care and we only focus on mowing bush and bed?
Maybe. You could argue that. But you couldn't argue for a million years or for anything that we would need to change our name because of it.
No, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
There's just value in having a name, right? And
the general public does look at lawn mowing as lawn care. Albeit internally we don't. I don't know. What names you got? You got some names?
That's Executive Mowing.
He doesn't like any ideas I have.
I'm kidding.
Accounting?
I don't have a name.
Benjamin's? Benjamin County.
I actually thought about...
Every idea I have, he poos on mine.
I thought about it for a second.
I mean, you do too.
It's what Josh did to me, always.
I was thinking about SMB. I actually don't know what SMB stands for.
Steve, middle name, Beagleman.
So then I started thinking about it, and I was like, Ben and Jeremy, BJ's Accounting. I don't like it.
Oh, no.
I'm not doing it. I had that thought yesterday.
Ambios is always there.
Ambios is like Chorby all over again.
A mighty brilliant entrepreneur
And
operating
again,
system.
Ambia, are you going to call it accounting? Is that what you want it to call? Bean counting? Bookkeeping?
I don't know yet. I'm not sure yet.
I think the idea is just how do you portray...
in 2028? Are we going to be White Picket team in the meantime?
We
got two contemplators here, so it might be a while before they decide.
I don't think it's
the whole point, though, is you're trying to figure out a name that expresses some sort of vision to somebody easily,
yes,
right?
That's
so
why I asked you the outcome question yesterday.
Yeah, so if you go to a franchise conference, right, and you're trying to meet with franchisors, like what name speaks to people immediately, like, hey, these guys are here to help me. White Picket Team, you can, but you have to expound on it a little bit more.
I think White Picket Team has a story.
Yeah.
I think that it fits in to the niche that we want to be in some capacity, albeit not to say we couldn't even expand from it, and I think it even allows for that expansion. It allows for expansion in all ways, frankly, which I love about. I love it. I love that about it. But I also think that when you think of the roots and the story of it, I think it's a great story. I think we have not figured out how to tell that story at all. And I think that maybe my perspective of that story is different from y'all's perspective of that story.
Oh, yeah,
Or whatever. So maybe that's part of it.
We did what the lawyers told us to do.
What?
They told us to take all of our employees, move them into white picket team management.
Oh yes, that is actually ultimately.
Then it caused
that's
a lot of chaos for me and headaches, and now we moved them out. It made more chaos and headaches for me.
Maybe we made the wrong choice, Jeremy.
What,
Made
with
the wrong
me?
choice with what?
With you.
Maybe.
No, we made the long choice of lawyers.
Sometimes I look
No,
in the mirror and I'm
lawyer's
like,
guy. Lawyer's nice.
I kid.
The lawyer was
something
good. He was a
right
nice guy.
or wrong?
I like.
The what?
The lawyer was good. It wasn't his fault. He was just doing what he thought.
Oh
was.
no, I don't have anything against the lawyer. I think the lawyer actually helped in so many ways.
Yeah.
And what we're talking about here is, in 2018, I approached a lawyer friend, good guy, and essentially said, I want to make sure that my organizations and my personal assets are structured for maximum long-term wealth creation and building. And yeah, he set us up. And in some ways, he set us up to where we were too far ahead, the structure.
Yeah, I think so.
In other ways, we just didn't have a clear understanding of it. And I am somebody who tends to be a little bit of a slow learner sometimes. But yeah, I think that it served a purpose, and I do think that it had merit.
But you know what? This is a good segue into something else. I don't know if you want to go back to that. But you hear online about people on social media. They're like, oh, you got to build an entity, and then you got to get paid by this other entity. And then that's going to also lease these employees from this other entity, right? You hear about this on social media from people.
It's common. It's not like it's crazy out there.
What do you say to somebody like that? Because I hear it all the time. I can go on my social media right now and see someone talking about how you got to do this. That's the only way to save on taxes, right? Do you hear this?
I don't
You know
think
what I'm
you're
talking
saving on. I don't see how you're saving on taxes. It's asset protection. You're protecting assets. You're making things more complicated. Frankly, you're making things more complicated for the sole purpose of making things complicated. By making them complicated, it makes it harder for people to come after you, more expensive for people to come after you. There is an element of that to it, albeit it's kind of like this, don't talk about that. The reason I'm happy to talk about it is, one, I don't care that much anymore, and two, we don't do it anymore. We shifted away from that concept as a whole, and the reason we shifted away, and why I think actually there's not one thing you have to do. Like, it's all about that individual, that business, the dynamics of that specific business. I don't think there's a right and a wrong way. The way we're doing things now, where we pay our employees at the company that they work at, we did that because I realized, as a general rule of thumb, we are so diversified. We have, like, I don't know how many entities, 18 entities.
Something like that.
Like, the risk is already really spread out. And when we had all of our HR at the one company, that was causing us more problems, and it was definitely causing us more bureaucracy within our organization. And I didn't see the point in it anymore.
Would you do it again if you could go back?
Maybe, because it actually helped in some ways.
Okay.
But I would probably do it a little differently.
How
if
would
I
you do
could
it
go
differently?
back. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know exactly.
I guess I'm asking because I'm trying to think of those people who might be watching. They hear
No,
the same
I would
things
say
as well.
the biggest thing for people watching in almost every scenario, whether you're a 6-figure business, a 5-figure business, a 7-figure business, or an 8-figure business, keep it simple. Keep it simple. Be careful not to let an attorney overcomplicate it. They can, and I think that's somewhat what happened with us.
Yeah.
Even though I think there was some good that came out of it. Most people would have given up on it a lot faster than they wouldn't have been able to handle it. And I say that in the sense that with the respect that I didn't have, most people don't have you. Seriously, most people don't have you to help with that. It was complicated. I wouldn't probably recommend it. Keep things simple. I see businesses and entrepreneurs that I very much so respect, even the guys that are hustling, and they're splitting out their home service businesses into different brands. And again, I don't know that there's specifically a right way and a specifically wrong way. I think just because it didn't work for me doesn't mean that it's, oh, you can't do this and it won't work. I think that it will work for some others. But by and large, follow the rule of keeping it simple. And if there's a lesson I've learned out of all this is most of the people that help me, including you, Jeremy, would agree we haven't really kept it simple, and it does cost us.
There is a cost, yes.
Everything that when you're breaking that rule of keeping it simple, even something that's well-meaning and good, I'm glad we did it. Turning Chorby into an Inc. So that we could have a stock option plan, mainly for our employees, but really for all potential key stakeholders, but mainly for employees, so that over time we are an employee-owned business. And learning that, we're still learning that, we're 2 years in. But that's a cost in a lot of fronts. There's a cost there, but that's one that I find to be very worth it.
That makes sense, yeah.
401ks, I found to be worth it.
Yeah.
That's another one as an employer that I think, again though, these kinds of things, every little thing, all these different benefits that you add to your employees, it does create a bureaucracy, and you got to be very careful to keep it simple. Do it, especially when it comes to taking care of your employees. 401ks are awesome. Over time, we've built almost over just what? How long have we offered 401ks?
Since 2020.
21?
And you've been,
2019.
you're literally the guy that does that for me, Jeremy. And so it's interesting. You and I have not had this conversation since so just 2 years, 3 years.
No, we started in like 2020, I think.
I think that makes more sense.
I think I started the
3 to
process
5
in
years.
2019. And then,
But we are well on our way to $1 million in our 401k.
Yeah.
It's $1 million of wealth, of our team members' wealth, invested into the stock market. I don't even know if I'm allowed to say that, but it's on its way to $1 million. It's not quite there, but it's just incrementally going up.
Yeah.
And I think that's awesome. So that's a bureaucracy and something that that made things complicated for us in some ways, but that it's worth it. Health benefits is another one.
I think one of the costs, though, in a negative way, was it confuses some of the team members, right?
Confuses the hell out of team members, but I don't think that's a reason not to do it.
Right.
If it's necessary, it can be necessary.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
I want to sway something.
go ahead.
In like November of last year, I think it was, you sent me a picture.
Okay.
You told me in January you would tell me the story of the picture. And you never did. Where did this come from?
This is hilarious.
Wait, just send them the
You're
picture later.
still this bothered by this?
Well, no, it actually, I snoozed it and it gave me my email.
How recently did it come up in your email?
Like a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
Is that an actual picture?
It's
It's an AI-generated image of someone.
It's going to be a total letdown for you.
I believe it is, but that's what's pissing me off
Yeah.
is because it's
I've
like
been
just
so
this
I've been
thing
messing
in the
with
back
Ben.
of my mind.
I sent him an AI picture that you just got to see. It's an AI generated picture of a Jeep, i.e. the Jeep behind us is what it's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And it's supposed to be me on top of that Jeep with a coffee. And as you can imagine, this is Josh Cahill making fun of me. He was messing with AI.
Okay, that's what I was trying to figure out.
Josh
was it
Cahill
you
was
or
no.
someone else?
I don't do that stuff.
That's
that
what I'm
was
saying.
Josh.
It was so bad that I
Yes.
thought maybe this was EJ.
No, no, that was Josh,
Sorry, Josh.
our other business partner here, who loves to make fun of me for the only place I drive this Jeep is to and from the Starbucks. And so
That makes so much more
he
sense.
asked AI to create a camouflage Jeep. And I think he even said with E.J. McCoy carrying a Starbucks.
He must have had like dog poop in there of something because
yeah, maybe.
there's like dog poop spilling out of
Maybe
the
that's
Jeep.
what it was. I don't know.
Okay.
But that's what it
That's
was.
all it was?
That's all it was. I told you you were going to be let down. But it was
Why'd you
hilarious.
send it to me though?
Because when we saw it,
It looked
it
like
looked like
me.
you. It didn't look like me. It looked
Oh.
like Ben. So I was like, let me send it to him. And then when you were like, what was that? Where did that? It got really entertaining
just-
that
yeah.
you wanted to know.
If you ever want a better story, ask him about the elf hawk one day.
Oh, I know
You know
plenty
about
about
the
the Hellhawk.
Yeah, Josh wrapped my Jeep and literally took my whole face and morphed it into the wrap of the Jeep. Yeah.
If we were going to do that again, which vehicle would you be most upset about if we wrapped?
I wouldn't necessarily be upset about any of them. I just think it's stupid. I wouldn't be upset. Wraps can easily come off.
What if we got painted?
Well, that'd be stupid. I'd be pissed. There's not a car I wouldn't be pissed.
What if I painted over the executive truck?
Well, that'd be stupid just because it'd devalue the truck.
How about truck 114?
That's Luis's truck. So let's talk bookkeeping and accounting. This is something that, as a franchisor, I have very much so seen. I mean, literally, it's like straight down the middle. Half of our franchisees use White Picket, which is our in-house and internal bookkeeping, but that we've always used for years and years. But our franchisees, half of our franchisees use White Picket. Their books are immaculately clean. They're updated every Friday at the very minimum. I can get the information I needed, and that's extremely important. The other half, it's kind of a mixed bag of they're not bad. Some of them are really bad. Most of them are not bad, but they're not what they're supposed to be.
No, some of them are bad.
So, like I say, some of them are
terrible.
Bad. Some of them are absolutely terrible. And that's just within our franchise system. And then as I talk to the franchise world, that's the case in every franchise business.
Yeah.
And so that's why we actually changed our franchise agreement to require new franchisees to use White Picket Team for their accounting services because it is so seamless, so flawless, and it's not even that expensive. You know, we're talking $200-300 a month, depending on the size of your business. And so,
how's your franchisees liking that?
Our franchisees that have done it have loved it. When I think about our Northwest Arkansas franchisee that has signed and launched under that, they love it. It's seamless, as far as I understand. And that actually leads me and segues over to the point, the ones that would be against it and the ones that are of the idea that they can do their own bookkeeping, frankly, I think they're wrong. And I think that's a segue to the general industry as a whole, home services specifically, but probably all business. I bet restaurants are classic for this too. As a business owner, you've got to know your books 100%. That's something that our controller, Michael McCord, would say I'm pretty good at, but I'm also not great at the details of knowing those books. But I know pretty well the books. But
yeah.
But a lot of business owners don't know those books, and then other business owners think that knowing their books is doing the books. And doing the books, for most any business owner, just doesn't make sense. Only the way I would put it, the most type A, OCD type business owners, those business owners, a lot of times they can't do their books because they're very, very organized and dot your I's, cross your T's. That's not most entrepreneurs. Most entrepreneurs are like me, a little all over the place. And all I can say is one of the keys to my success over 20 years at this point, and it wasn't 20 years ago that I got bookkeepers. It was about 15 years ago that I got bookkeepers, but that first 5 years I wasn't using bookkeepers. I was taking my receipts to a CPA somewhere around January, February every year for the previous year saying, here, do something with this. And then they'd call me in with a handful of questions and I'd spitball those questions. That's not a way to do bookkeeping. But from there, I discovered paying and hiring a bookkeeper was a game changer for my ability to create long-term wealth. And what's funny is, even until the last couple of years, I didn't fully understand a balance sheet.
Yeah.
P&L was all that mattered to me for the longest time. And I would venture to argue that for most entrepreneurs, and especially entrepreneurs building a single route or two routes, the P&L is all that really matters. The balance sheet, it's going to tell you you owe money on XYZ trucks or you have XYZ trucks paid off and therefore they're assets, but you don't need to know that outside of 4 or 5 times a year. Your P&L matters, and how clean it is matters. And beginning to understand and working with a bookkeeper that understands that and keeps up with it, not quarterly or monthly even, but as in real time as humanly possible. And I think that's why White Picket, I've said this over and over again, that's our unique selling proposition. We can get your books done on a weekly basis. Virtually is similar to the way payroll is done at your company, or more fast, because most people do bi-weekly. What do you guys say to that?
I think that, I'm curious actually, I have a question before I answer. Do you think it's devalued from the get-go as an entrepreneur as a young entrepreneur, I should say, do you think it's devalued, or do you think you just have a lack of education on,
There it
on
is.
its value?
Yeah, it's lack of education.
Okay.
I don't think people understand the value in it.
Mhm.
So I guess it is devalued. It's devalued because of lack of education in it.
Is it because
People are used to doing their own budgets.
Yeah.
I mean, we're trained, albeit not very well at all, but don't get me started on that tangent, but we are trained in school in some capacity to budget, and or trained by our parents to budget in some capacity. All of us, it's a huge, that's like I said, that's a whole conversation in
Yeah.
itself in terms of education gap in
Management.
personal money management for people.
Mhm.
And then I think, well, people are used to doing their own budget. So I start a business, every penny counts. I'm doing the budget myself. I can do it. I do it over here too.
Mhm.
And I think that's kind of where it's rooted. And then they think to themselves, this is just my experience listening and talking to, then I'm going to get to, I'm going to hire somebody next year.
Mhm.
And it never happens.
It's
Next
'cause
year
their-
never comes.
Their focus is on getting clients.
Yeah.
It's getting money coming in the door. But I think there's not enough perspective or insight from the get-go to think about what's your exit strategy? Where do you want it to be, the business to be in 5 years and 10 years? If your intent is because you're looking on social media that you could sell your business in 20 years or 10 years and make millions of dollars.
There's almost
like-
no way you can do that by doing your own books.
That's my point. Is like you
If you
have to
cook 'em.
have your business has to be an asset that's attractive. What'd you say?
If you cook them.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. And if you want to make, never mind. That's where we make the real money.
I actually I feel like there's so many good things I could say from this, but you got me speechless. Welcome to White Picket, guys, where they give you solutions one way or another. You can cook them.
It's the benefit of being smart enough.
I didn't say you should. I said you could.
It's pretty pointless because you got to file your taxes off something. And I wouldn't cook them and file your taxes. Even though I did find out in the last year or so that the IRS, and it never really occurred to me in this regard. I'm going to butcher this probably, but I've heard this forever, that the IRS is the largest collection agency in the world.
I've heard that too. Yeah.
But we are on an honor system. Our government and the IRS and our taxing system in the United States is an honor system. There is no buddy necessarily checking your work at the IRS as a general rule of thumb. No, it's a 100% honor system. It's just a matter of, you can absolutely get in trouble and go to jail if you don't file your taxes or if you lie on your taxes. And so that auditing is, but as a general rule, it's all kind of what do you call it? They're just trusting you.
Yeah,
It's the honor system.
until they look, and then they make your life a living hell
Right.
for like years on end.
I was getting my hair cut
Personal experience.
a few weeks ago, and there was this young barber that was walking around to all the other barbers asking the same question. Hey, should I do my taxes this year? How do I do that? I'm like, oh God. And he came around and was
That's
asking
very-
questions. He was like, do you think I should? I was like,
That's more common than not.
yes.
That is more common than not.
Yeah.
And that's why I go back to that overall education is like, I actually think there's a lot to this just as a general society. Financial education is very lacking as a whole. I think the more people that could understand, the more people understand finances, the better society as a whole could be. And business obviously plays a role in that. But going back to the importance of bookkeeping, I think that's where it starts. People just don't value or prioritize.
They don't
I
know the
didn't as a-
value.
I did not as a business owner early on. I cannot say I did. It took me a few years, and then I realized I was doing $200,000 or $300,000 a year in revenue. I realized, wow, I need somebody, and I hired somebody for $10 an hour, and she really couldn't make much of it. Honestly, she did. But here's the one thing she did do is say, you need a bookkeeping service, and she actually went and hired me a bookkeeping service and said, here you go. And then from there, I learned the value of a bookkeeping service, and it was magic the way you could see your numbers properly, and that's just the P&L.
But you also need to be taught what those numbers mean.
Yeah, but again, a P&L,
But like for me,
If you can't figure out a P&L, you might not need to be in
no,
business for
but
yourself.
like the cash flow statement is one of the most important
Still
and most,
one I don't completely understand.
but it's like one of the most important statements that most people don't understand in their business.
That's
But-
true.
Because if you don't have cash, you don't have anything,
That's
right?
true. But I'll
And-
say for those of us like myself that I just made two statements. On one hand, I say if you can't understand a P&L, you probably maybe shouldn't be in business, or you should have somebody
Yeah.
like your mom or your aunt or your grandma helping you if you cannot understand the basics of a P&L. But on the flip side, it took me years to understand a balance sheet, and I'm
Yeah.
still learning the cash flow statement and the importance of that. I mean, I understand the basics of it, obviously, but as far as looking at it, I don't make it a habit of that.
It's just important. Like
So-
for instance, I can tell you like that one, like a couple franchisees think they're doing great on the P&L, but then the cash flow statement will actually show you like,
That's debt.
no, you're paying like, yeah, you might be making a profit over here, but over on the cash flow statement, it's showing you that there's like money going out to pay
and that's
for
debt,
trucks and
basically?
everything.
Yeah,
And
truck
so you're not
debt.
doing as good as you thought because you're just chucking away cash.
But a P&L for your average business, cash flow statement is important, but what a P&L statement does help with is it helps you with understanding your general expenses. In home services,
Operations,
it's
yeah.
labor. It's all about labor.
Mhm.
Now, what you're talking about in the cash flow statement, in helping a business owner understand that, that's especially important when a business owner is utilizing and leveraging debt.
Yes, exactly.
If they're not leveraging debt, you pretty much do look at the P&L, and at the bottom of the P&L, that's how much money you have. It's addition and subtraction, right? But you're right, business owners, I did this very much so. I would finance a truck, and I'd look down at my P&L, but then I'd realize, oh, my truck payment's not on this P&L.
Yeah.
Where's my truck payment? Well, it's debt, so it's not on. It's on the balance sheet. I'm not the quickest learner. Both of you know that very much so. No, but
But it's showing the importance of bookkeeping. We're just talking about the importance of bookkeeping, right? And not just having a bookkeeper, but someone who's willing to sit down and actually like explain what you're actually looking at. I think is a real value in bookkeeping, and that's something you don't get on some of these larger companies. Some of these larger companies, yeah, they'll do your bookkeeping for like a couple $100s a month, but then it's just like, here you go. We're not really willing to tell you what you're looking at. You know, it's
and
just
in other words, in the best case scenario, you're now having to go back and create a list of anywhere from 3 to 20 things that need to be corrected, and almost nobody is doing that.
yeah. I think that's where you've always had good success, right? In that you've had Michael McCord and Pam, CPA, to like really sit down and
Yeah, but we had our struggles early on. Early
Right.
on, we had to hire and fire numerous bookkeeping services and tax accountants. We had tax accountants fire us. And by the way, I think we should separate those two. So, White Picket Team, or name to be determined, but White Picket Team is a bookkeeping service. That's your day-to-day, your week-to-week, your books, your QuickBooks, in almost, in my opinion, in most cases. Separate from that is what is normally somebody filing your taxes, a specialized person who deals in taxes. Rarely does the bookkeeper file the taxes also. It's almost always two separate expertise. It's not to say, I know our bookkeeping service, you mentioned Pam, our tax service, they do our taxes, but they also have a bookkeeping division that we're technically competing with. And I'll never forget, they're the ones that came to me and said, we can't do your books anymore, you're too big, you need to do them in-house. It just makes sense, and they helped us with that. And that I want to be able to do that for other small businesses.
Why do you like Pam so much?
Well,
What's
so
one of the
important.
what's one
Funny
of the
story, I actually fired Hockaday for a year.
Yeah.
So Hockaday, Pam is the partner. It's not her name. Joe is her partner, Joe Hockaday.
Right.
So Joe Hockaday started, we got introduced to him somehow, I don't even remember how. And we used Joe, and he was small. He had just started, it was just him, nobody else in his office. And he wasn't the greatest at responsiveness, Jeremy.
What?
He wasn't the greatest at responsiveness. No, I would get so frustrated with him because he would take too long to get back to me, and that's always been a huge pet peeve of mine.
Right.
And so I actually let him go as much as I really liked him, always really liked him. Even when I let him go, I liked him. Great guy. And we went through like 2 other CPAs in a year and a half. that weren't very good, and bookkeepers that I had one issue or another with that I wasn't particularly happy with. And we went back to Joe and simply said, look, if you'll just get back to us, we love you. Like, we want to hire you, but please get back to us. And within a few months, I think Pam had started, and I think he pretty much at that point was like, we're the problem client. Like, Pam, make these guys happy. And Pam has always been great since. That's been over a decade now.
So looking for a CPA, responsiveness, were there any other traits you're looking for?
You gotta have responsiveness. Well, yeah, competence.
Right.
They also have to, in a lot of ways. So I had a CPA, one of those ones that I had to let go. He was he knew his stuff and was actually a teacher at the local college here. So he was a teacher even. I couldn't learn nothing from him. He'd sit there and stare at me, and he'd try to do stuff on the whiteboard, and I'm just like, we were not communicating. And so Pam has always had a way of being able to communicate it to me in the way that I understand it.
Was it just simplified?
Simplified, yes. He way overcomplicated it. Way. It was like he was trying to teach me college level accounting when I have like a 6th grade level education. I was just looking at him like, dude, I don't understand anything. Years later, some of it started to, like, I remember I went back years later. So that's maybe a lesson to think about, Jeremy. Don't overcomplicate it for us simpletons, which you don't tend to do. You're pretty good at simplifying.
Yeah, you're actually good at simplifying what you're educating.
You're really good at simplifying what you're educating most of the time.
No,
That's
you're
why
right,
Picket, and look, guys, I don't care what the name is called. I care about us getting clients. So let's get some clients.
Hey, I got Jason.
Fantastic. You didn't tell me that. Good job.
I was waiting to get it on camera.
That's fantastic. So that's great
I
news,
got a client.
actually. And do you what?
I got a client.
Who?
Ben's mom.
Hey, look at that. My mom just emailed me.
Yeah, tell me if she signed up for it.
I could go a few ways. I'm not doing that. No. But no, in all seriousness, guys, look, there are people that watch this.
Isaiah, our editor.
Yeah.
Isaiah, our editor, watches. No.
Ben's
no.
mom.
Ben's mom, I don't know. She might not watch.
No, she doesn't.
I know. My
would
wife doesn't watch.
If I asked my mom, she would.
Oh, yeah.
Why don't you?
Huh?
Yeah, we
We need the
those
views. Jinx.
But no, seriously. How do we find you guys for now? Is it whitepicketteam.com still, or are we planning on changing that?
Just, how do you find White Picket Team?
Yeah.
You text Ben Gonzalez and say, hey, how do I get signed up?
Okay. How do we reach Ben Gonzalez?
LinkedIn.
I keep
LinkedIn
thinking
too,
of too
man.
many jokes.
No, LinkedIn though. I'm actually beginning to see the little value of LinkedIn. So
I mean,
A
yes,
little
my
value. Congratulations.
intent is the content that I want to create. I have long form content. That
I'm going to get to that, but before that, how do we get in touch with
Ben
you?
Gonzalez on LinkedIn, 972-989-9543. Ben Gonzalez at whitepicketteam.com.
Can you repeat that? Is that a phone number? I guarantee you could put your cell phone number on here and never get a call from it.
That is so mean. And
What I'm saying.
pretty true, because actually I did a whole jobber summit, and I included in my presentation all
Exactly.
my contact information, everything,
Exactly.
and I got one person that contacted
And that
me.
I was going to say that's not necessarily a dig on our view on our
That's just how it goes.
small numbers of viewership, which I hope to be in the hundreds at least. But still, it takes scale. It takes being in the tens of thousands. I'll bet you we could have 10,000 subscribers and thousands of viewers on all of our content, and I bet you could still give your cell phone number out and get, especially if you only did it once, never get calls. But I bet you even if you consistently did it, you're not often getting calls.
oh, everybody has my number.
I did this for my HOA actually. I gave my phone number out to all, and everybody was shy about it. I was like, I'll give them my phone number. I can screen the calls. Nobody ever called my cell. In fact, they would still reach out to
Clearly,
me.
you just got voted out.
Do what? I didn't get voted
I'm
out.
just kidding.
I chose not to rerun.
But I think it's
Mainly
about-
because I didn't play well with others.
I do think that's where things like LinkedIn are valuable, but I think people connect more on LinkedIn and social media than they do calling each other. I was thinking we were at a franchise conference and I was going around and I was like, people were giving me their phone numbers. I'm like, I'm never going to call you. Like,
Well, I will.
you will?
Yeah. I'm vying for phone numbers, not LinkedIn.
But then I can get on LinkedIn and I can like comment and be like, hey man, great job. And
Yeah, you can still do that, but like if I'm trying to sell someone, I'm going to establish a better relationship by texting or calling them moreover than sending them a message on LinkedIn.
But are you just calling them just to sell, or you
on LinkedIn.
Do what?
Are you just calling to sell them, or are you calling them to like build a relationship with?
Build a relationship, but we don't know our stuff yet. So right now it's just nurturing a relationship.
We know our stuff.
We do know our
stuff.
stuff.
We're great.
The people that I'm talking to.
Better at bookkeeping than anywhere I've ever seen.
Make sure you edit this part, Isaiah. Make sure you edit all this out.
No, actually, I think you should keep all this. This is great.
It'll be good to look back at in 2 years.
Ben,
Well,
talk to us about your plans, your media plans, because that's the other White Picket team. That's how we're going to get clients.
okay.
Is, in my belief, and bring value, is thought leadership. You putting value. I mean, look, places like Jobber pay you for your thoughts.
And then they never asked me to come back.
That's only been it hadn't even been a year. I mean, you can't expect them to have you back constantly. They want to. They can't run through the same people over and over again.
Yeah.
And in other words, I wouldn't take that to heart too much.
So you want to switch over to media?
No, we're talking here about Ben's media. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And your media for that matter. I really believe that the two of you doing something, anything, in any capacity, in your own, on your own YouTube channel, on a White Picket YouTube channel, whatever it is, you have something to say, you have value to bring, and then of course I want that to bring us bookkeeping clients through White Picket.
Okay.
What are we going to do about that? What's taking so long?
Oh, hold on. We need to have an edit point. So why don't you just start with, let's switch over to talk about media. Can you do that?
I just did.
It wasn't a good...
Isaiah, you can just leave it all in here, man.
No.
Let it ride.
No.
Even Jeremy getting up and walking over there, let it ride.
No, don't.
Yes, yes. And by the way, if we can, if that camera was smart enough, I'd say zoom into his eye twitching. No. I just talked. This is organic, and this is my podcast. I'm vetoing you. Seriously. Like, I look at him. He's getting so serious. No, seriously. It needs to be organic. I like it.
I guess if anybody's actually watching this, I've been in media since 1995 doing videography and photography. So.
And I drive him nuts. It's hilarious, which is why I wanted to get it on here. It's been fun. This one actually, I can't. What was the thing earlier that we needed to edit?
Everything.
Nah. There's little that we need to edit here. It'll be funny. We'll be able to go back and look at it. And for anybody who wants to take the time to watch, they'll get entertained. And people that don't, so be it. Back to my question, media. What are you going to do about that, sir? You're next. I'm doing it. Even if it's bad, I'm doing it.
Yeah, you're doing it all right.
With your mom.
Oh my gosh.
Dang.
I wouldn't recommend you have your mom watch this particular episode.
So Ben, media. What are you doing right now? What do you hope to do in the future?
What am I doing right now? Nothing right now.
Yeah, well, not with
planning
media.
right now.
You are doing a lot of stuff. You're just not doing anything with media.
Yeah, but I have determined the area that I want to focus in, and it's expanded actually from. I think there's a niche market to review franchise conferences in the franchising industry. I'm not talking about giving away every single detail because I don't think that people holding the events would appreciate that. But I think they would appreciate some exposure, and I don't think there's anyone creatively dissecting into the value of these conferences for people that are brand new to franchising. So I want to create content that's around that. So traveling to these conferences, talking to people that put them on, talking to brand new people, talking to people who've been there for a while, and breaking it down and making it generally pretty educational. But I want to do that at lots of different places across the country, across the year. But I was also thinking about it, just in general, I don't know if there's a lot of like reviewing franchising as a whole. Openly, expanded. There's a lot of relational conversations about franchising and who are the best franchise consultants, who are the best franchise brokers, who's the best so on and so forth, list it all out. But it's all subjective. And what I would create is also subjective, but it's not a like analysis and breakdown of what do these terms mean for someone that's new into franchising, as a franchisor or as a franchisee. I just think there's something to that on breaking down common terms and evaluating objectively who's the best, and I don't know, something along those lines. But I think there's something to that.
I think there is too.
I think there's a guy, Ethan Chubowski, I think, on YouTube, and he does this with food. His style of like taking olive oil as an example and breaking down the history of it and like its use cases and why costs fluctuate. Like it's way more in depth than it probably needs to be. But I think that style of education that's objective and trying to find truth in an environment where it's so incestuous, I guess. I don't know. I think there's something to that, like almost investigative journalism in a sense.
But you want to keep a good, healthy balance. You don't want to be
100%.
critical.
No.
You're not
I'm
looking
not
to go
trying
to
to
these
make
conferences
enemies.
to be critical.
No,
you
no,
want to make friends.
100%.
But you also want to do it in a lot of the franchise world. There's a lot of bias in what you read and hear.
Yeah.
You're trying to approach it from a much less biased standpoint.
If someone's brand new coming into this, because I think the franchising industry is only going to grow, I think there's going to be a market for content that surrounds that.
Yeah. I think you have a great idea. I'm wondering, have you found any other content out there that does reviews of conferences because conferences is an industry in itself, both inside of franchising, what you're talking about, inside of home services, basically inside of every industry, especially industry of size, there is a conference industry inside of that. And so have you found anything that's...
I think that there's definitely people that have done that. Yeah, I've not like found someone that's like, this is the leader in this. No, I haven't found anyone that's that, but I also haven't like spent all day.
I think
every day
if you gave Nick this idea, he'd like it. This is kind
I
of
think so too.
This is kind of up
I
his
think
alley.
so
I
too.
feel like it is, at least.
I think there's something to it. Yeah.
You know what you could also do is you could review podcasts. You could give feedback on podcasts. But you could be critical about. No, that's Jeremy's thing. You do the conferences, Jeremy. You could criticize.
Jeremy would just shut every
You
podcast
could criticize
down.
and troll various podcasts.
I do like to troll.
It could be like you could do commentary for how people do the lighting and the sound, and you could
Yeah,
could
but
be
he need to be
critical.
present for all that.
No, he could criticize it from what the viewer is seeing. There is
That's
a
true.
way.
Yeah, why are you wearing that? Looks terrible.
It does.
Needs a Scoop Soldiers logo sticker on it,
It does.
or a poop
Buy
emoji,
Scoop Soldiers.
because this is the Pet Waste Millionaire Find Your Gold podcast. You're
Yeah,
right.
it's-
It could be the Pet Waste Millionaire logo
Find your goal.
or the Find Your Gold logo. We have Find Your Gold logo right here.
That's true.
We got to make sure that stays in the shot.
What are you doing with media?
Ben gave a really good answer. I mean, it's going to be hard to top that, sir. You got your work cut out for you.
I actually think he's going to be way better than me.
Well, when
If
he
you
actually...
choose
What is
to lean in.
what's the question again?
The question is media. He's still worried about that. He's still worried about a minute ago when we didn't start over.
No, I just wanted to make sure I understood the question.
The question is media. What is White Picket doing? Because I
Okay,
really
what is White
believe that
Picket doing?
media, White Picket has a future in media, both as obviously a value to bring to people, education that you can bring, but obviously that's going to bring us clients. But I also believe that White Picket could still absolutely have value in building its own media and education.
I want to be clear too. When it comes to direct education on what White Picket Team or whatever the name is going to be provides, he has a way more value to give than I do.
Don't say that. You do. You have value.
I'm not saying I have no value, you jerk. I'm saying
I'm being-
you have
I'm
way
trying to
more
be nice.
value
I'm
in
not-
terms of like education and experience in why cash flow statements are, in your opinion, objectively more important. Yeah, I'm saying like that stuff, you've got way more knowledge than I do and a skill set in it. I'm not saying what I do has no value.
Okay, let's make sure I don't want to make sure you don't talk down on yourself.
But I also
That's
like,
okay.
White Picket Team is not going to be my only thing. So I want to create a brand around Ben. I also want to funnel clients to White Picket Team 100%.
What was that noise?
It's my phone.
Okay, all right. I want to make sure.
But I'm also thinking longer term than just White Picket Team, and so I want to create content that's beyond just bookkeeping.
Though
and
I'm a
it's in
little
franchising.
jealous.
I know. He said he's like
I'm
wants
a
to build
little
his own brand up.
jealous. I know. He,
So he
he
can move on.
wants to leave
That's what I
us.
heard.
No, I won't leave. It'll just be another thing.
We'll buy him out. Is it like $1?
I mean, I guess he can own his own name.
No, but he actually brings up a good point. You talk about media.
Satan.
I actually have been thinking a little bit more about it. Like, the value that White Picket brings is the people right now that are in it, which is you, me, and Ben.
That
right?
scares me.
But it
the
doesn't- it
systems
shouldn't
and
scare
the
you.
processes. It's the systems
System
and the
and the
processes
processes,
we've
but-
built, and I would add Michael McCord to that, especially with being that there is systems and processes.
But somebody who wants to like
That's my phone.
use White Picket, you know, is somebody who likes us as individuals, and they have to be able to trust that we know what we're talking about. So media, I think if you just try to build a brand for White Picket Team, there's not really a brand there. Right now, what's most important is trying to build up experience in building relationships as individuals, that then they can work for White Picket, or they work with White Picket on their
I'm
their
fine
video.
with that strategy, but I
So-
could argue with you if you wanted me to.
Well, no, I mean, think about it. Like right now, if I go on my social media and I make a big, you know, I get people to know me as somebody who is
An authority in bookkeeping,
in bookkeeping or in, you know, business and all
Thought
that kind of stuff.
leadership.
Thought leadership, Ben, right?
HR.
Yeah, if you're able to do that, people are gonna be like, I want to work with that guy, and that guy knows what he's talking about. And then, because I've built that relationship with somebody, then I can go. Then White Picket Team, or you know, is more like just a funnel for like money and for, you know, contracts and all. Whereas that's where the media
It
really
could
comes
be,
in.
absolutely. It could become a brand of Ben Gonzalez and a brand of Jeremy Langlitz, and yes.
And social
that
media
just-
makes it so much
that's
easier
the
now
funnel to White Picket Team.
And social media makes it so easy now to do both. Like I can post something on my social media page and collaborate with a business easily. So it not only shows up on my page, but it also shows up on the company page, which is awesome, which is great for me because I'm building up both me personally in my expertise here, but I'm also building up the company's page as well and building content for them. And I think that's what makes it so easy nowadays. I love that feature that's come out on social media. And I don't know if how well, LinkedIn you can do tag it, right? You can tag
you
your
can.
business.
So
So you could do that.
let's do it.
We already are. I mean,
We are?
we're doing,
I mean, you guys did 2 podcasts, and then like you broke up or something.
no, because this goes back to value. Like,
I broke up with him.
I-
All right.
One of you, I know something happened.
I bet everybody watching it could understand why, right?
Go ahead,
Still thinking
finish
about
that
it.
thought, Chair.
I lost the thought.
You lost the thought. Tell
See,
us
I
about
had to,
your
like,
podcast,
cram so much
Tailwind
information.
to Success. How many episodes was Tailwind to Success?
Oh.
You know, my podcast is so wildly successful. I can make fun of y'all's.
But I think sometimes when you're looking at a podcast, not everyone has to have a
Gosh, yeah.
a
it's so true.
podcast, you know?
I agree. You're the one that's been saying podcast for like as long as I've known you.
Yeah, timing matters with this. In 2021, yeah, podcast for sure. It's very saturated now, as it was in 2021 too, for sure. But
And that's where
I actually
shorts.
still think it's the golden era for all media like this.
I
25
don't-
years from now, it will all be over. I don't know. I actually argue that. I'm going to retract what I was about to say. 25 years from now, it'll be even more easy, and thus there will be even more people doing it. And I don't think that's a bad thing, and I don't think that takes away the opportunity. In some ways, I think it opens up the opportunity. You're going to have a niche. Everything's going to be niched down.
You will. I think also YouTube does play a big role in the future of media. There's
that's where I'm focusing my time on. LinkedIn as well, but YouTube is my
I
number
agree
one.
with YouTube, but that's where, to me, I still see something with White Picket. Long term, imagine putting, I don't know, $1 million. We don't have $1 million right now, but imagine if we did. Imagine in the future, we put $1 million into a PragerU style education platform, media specifically, and but that could go into publishing and all sorts of other stuff. And again, that's why I think White Picket Team can do that. The other example would be Ramsey Solutions, Dave Ramsey. He started out in financial and debt-free in the books, but now he's far beyond that. It's a lifestyle brand. It's literally a lifestyle brand. It covers everything that frankly is absolutely needed. Education in life. School doesn't teach us that, and frankly a lot of parents don't teach that. And so I still think that there's something to White Picket. The direction I would go to would be in a financial education beyond Dave Ramsey. You're debt-free, that's the foundation. Get debt-free and to understand the principles of being debt-free and why you want to think that way, and then understand how to leverage, and then go beyond that and understand how to leverage money and build wealth.
Those areas are so hard though.
Does what?
When you get into educational videos, financial videos, trying to educate people on it.
What's so hard?
People love to piss in your Cheerios, man. Just like they'll harp on anything that you say is wrong.
Everything you do
Yeah.
of any value is going to get criticism.
Yeah. It's not criticism, but people all have their own opinion. Case in point, going back to, set up all the different entities, right? You'll get into like.
Did I tell you there was someone that commented on your YouTube channel on?
You haven't told me about anything recently about
there
YouTube
was some.
comments.
There was some corporate attorney that called you out and said that you don't know what you're talking about.
A lot of times I don't. What was it about?
It was about you don't need to establish an LLC to get started with your pet waste removal business.
Oh yeah.
You don't. The attorney was saying I don't know what I'm talking about by saying that. Well, he's an idiot. His
username was Legal Reefer 420.
Legal Reefer. Oh, okay. Well, I could probably get in alignment with him on a few things. but no, seriously, to an attorney, this is where Jeremy and I, as much as he's my best friend and we work very closely together constantly, this is where he and I get into it. A lawyer, or Jeremy, who's not a lawyer but could be one for sure, a lawyer would tell you, oh yeah, you got to start an LLC. It's got to be the first thing you do. You better not go scoop a single yard. You might trip over a piece of dog shit and burn the house down, and then you're fully liable because you didn't have an LLC. When the reality is, if it were up to that lawyer, he's the guy who wouldn't let his 11-year-old have a lemonade stand in front of their house because of the liability of it. It's a joke. It's laughable. I'm talking in the context I'm talking to in that video. I'm talking to people that nobody's going to sue them. They don't have anything to sue. They're starting a business for less than $50.
Oh, people do love to sue.
But when nobody sues somebody who doesn't have anything. So if you're starting a business for less than $50, you're likely not going to screw anything up and get sued. A, you're not going to probably screw anything up when you're doing $50 a week in revenue. You're probably not going to screw anything up. And B, if you do, what's the real risk? Are they going to again in the context of this? Are they going to take your $4,000 car?
Right.
No, they're not. And so that lawyer doesn't know what he's talking about. I'll come back. I should do a little short video on that one. That would be good.
You should.
Since I clearly have an opinion about it.
We'll just clip it.
Yeah. I don't do good at looking in the camera. Should I be looking in the camera more? I tend to like to just.
If you're interviewing, you look at people. But if you want to make a point to the audience, you look at the camera.
Sometimes
way
I
to
look.
screw it up, man.
No, sometimes I look at the camera.
You do when you intro and outro.
No.
But no, in all seriousness, the flow as we are developing the Pet Waste Millionaire Find Your Gold podcast, we're wrapping up the second episode of 2025's season. I want this podcast, and I'd love your feedback. I'd love those of you watching, y'all's feedback. My goal is for it to be comfortable and to be very organic. And so while, yes, Jeremy, we might have Isaiah edit elements for sure, clean it up, take out stuff that's clearly absolutely pointless and of no value, not even entertaining, fine. But some of this, you getting up and going over there, I don't care. It should be organic and natural and casual. This was literally intended to be about as ADD as our regular meetings, which is exactly what it was. Where on one hand, we're talking your mom jokes, and on the other hand, we're getting some business done. So when it comes to wrapping up here, Ben Gonzalez, Jeremy Langlitz, White Picket Team, for now. And the action to be created out of this is we've got to bring in more awareness to whatever the name is going to be. We got to bring more awareness. We got to get our name out there and get more bold in it.
Done.
That's a wrap. Isaiah, now you can be done.
All right, hold on.
That's what I
Don't
told
move.
Jeremy's mom last night.